Some show up at Keeneland just to be beautiful, some for the burgoo. Me, it's because the best handicapping challenge on God's green earth is right here in Kentucky. Star horses come from Florida, California, and New York, Arkansas, and Louisiana, all to what undoubtedly is the greatest horse racing melting pot in America.
Into the stretch at Keeneland, and Flight Line just moves right by. Life is good.
Win here and you've done something. Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. That's Keeneland. Now, let's get handicapping. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday night edition of the Keeneland Look Ahead as I take a look at the Sunday card coming up for April the 16th. We've got a couple stakes races on the Sunday program, the Palisades and the Beaumont. We've got turf racing, Turf Pick 3 scheduled. We'll talk about the weather in just a minute. It is a little bit of a concern. We also want to tell you about what a day we had today at Keeneland. Massive pools, a big crowd, and fantastic racing on the track. We're going to get a chance to take you through the stretch runs of the three key stakes races today in just a little bit. But it was a good day in the handicapping circles. We ended up with 5 winners today. Our best day of the meet for sure. We're up 23% on a flat bet profit on those. So a good winning day today, and it's the second winning day of 6. We want to increase that number, of course, during the course of the meet. But as we've spoken in the last few days, we're looking for a little bit of a turnaround. Good day at the windows, but not the big prices that we're looking for. Horses were very formful today in the way they ran. We had the $93,000 carryover pick 6, and the $1 pick 6 paid $900. So that tells you that this was a formful day. It wasn't necessarily just straight chalks and paying $3, but a lot of 2-to-1 kind of favorites, a lot of $6 winners. There were some $3 and $4 winners sprinkled in there as well. 3 wins today for jockey Luis Saez. We hinted that Luis Saez and Irad Ortiz would probably have a big day today because Tyler Gaffalione and Joel Rosario were out of town. We'll tell you about what happened to them in the big one at Oaklawn in the Apple Blossom in just a minute. But Saez won 3 on the card, 1 of the stakes races. Irad Ortiz won 2, the other 2 stakes races. So it was all about the 2 riders we thought would have a big day today. They pick up the best mounts a lot of times anyway. And with the big other dogs out of the colony today with Rosario and Gaffalione away, it set up nicely for Ortiz and Saez. The other Ortiz, Jose, had 2 wins on the card as well. So between Luis and the Ortiz brothers, we ended up with 7 winners on the 11-race card. A couple notes and news for the Triple Crown based on the results today. We'll tell you about that after we take a look back at the replays from today's races at Keeneland on the big stakes, and we'll give you the fallout and the Triple Crown fallout and the news we know about these runners in just a minute.
They turn for home. Miner's Queen, the leader. Twilight Gleaming still second. A length and a half separate them, but now here comes Twilight Gleaming again. Star Divine goes to third. Twilight Gleaming strikes the lead in the final furlong. Twilight Gleaming by 2 lengths clear of Miner's Queen, and then Star Divine. Twilight Gleaming in front. Twilight Gleaming down to the line for Irad Ortiz Jr. Twilight Gleaming to get it. K. Robin Dorada came with a late rush to grab second in 1 minute 1.74 seconds, a stakes record. Arabian Lion leads at a length and a half. First Mission is second, midway on the far turn. Prairie Hawk is in third. Disarm is fourth, looking for running room. Now goes to third, 3.5 lengths off the lead. Demolition Duke is fourth to his inside, but Arabian Lion leads to the top of the short stretch in the Stone Street Lexington. Arabian Lion with First Mission having plenty of room to the inside and trying to scoot up the rail to challenge Arabian Lion. Close quarters between this pair, then Disarm, and then Dennington. First Mission keeps running up the inside. First Mission grabs the lead. First Mission, Luis Saez to win it. Arabian Lion home second. Disarm was third in 1 minute 43.74 seconds in the Stone Street Lexington. Quarter mile to go. In Italian, the leader. White Frost to the inside with the Moonlight to the outside. Then Queen Goddess skims is fifth toward the rail. In Italian has the lead. In Italian into the final furlong opens up here. 3 lengths in front of With the Moonlight. Second ahead. White Frost is third. In Italian, the leader coming to the line in the Grade 1, Jenny Wiley. In Italian to win it for Irad Ortiz Jr. With the Moonlight was home second. White Frost third, skims fourth. 1 minute 39.71 seconds.
So a little fallout and reaction, if you will, from the 3 stakes that you just saw there today. The first one in the Giants Causeway, it was Wesley Ward winning. Not the Ward horse I picked, the horse that I had underneath, but it was Twilight Gleaming who was the favorite and won the Giants Causeway Stakes. That gives Wesley Ward 10 wins in Keeneland Turf Sprints. In the last 19 offered, going back to 2021, we've had 19 turf sprints the last 3 years at Keeneland. In stakes races, turf sprint stakes. Wesley Ward's now won 10 of them, and he's had a big meet with the 2-year-olds, and he's had a big meet with the turf sprinters. That's certainly Wesley's world. As for the middle race you just saw there, the Lexington Stakes, 2 big notables performances there. Of course, the winner, First Mission for trainer Brad Cox. Third time he's won that race in the last 4 years. He's going to head to the Preakness with this one the way it looks. If First Mission comes out of the race good, same trip that he did with Owendale a couple years ago, winning the Lexington and then waiting the Preakness. We should see First Mission in the Preakness Stakes. Could be a very interesting new shooter in the middle jewel of the Triple Crown. And the third place finisher in that middle race that we saw there, the Lexington Stakes, was Disarm. He was the horse I sillily mentioned. He had to run 1-2 to get enough points for the Kentucky Derby. It slipped my mind that third was worth 6 points. So when I talked last night that he had to finish first or second, 6 points got him over the hump from 40 to 46, and he jumped Jace's Road as a horse who's now in the field for the Kentucky Derby, and he can't be jumped at this point. So they are in with Disarm with that third place finish. Wasn't the kind of effort you wanted to see, but with the short stretch finish line, it's kind of a grinder. He was cutting back from 1 mile and 3/16 in the Louisiana Derby, cutting back 1/8 of a mile to run the Lexington. They can use that excuse and move on and say, we need more distance. In fact, I saw an interview done by the Kentucky HBPA that they released to the media. Jenny Reese, early mentor of mine and early in my career and a lifelong friend. She does a great job for the Kentucky HBPA now. She put out a video with Ron Winchell, the owner of Disarm for Winchell Thoroughbreds, and the talk was a lot of that, right? The distance wasn't long enough here. We always thought this was a 1.25 mile horse. If he comes out of the race okay, we'll look at the Kentucky Derby. Disarm's going in the Kentucky Derby, I believe, if he's healthy. They got what they needed today, which were the 6 points at least to get him over the hump, and barely held on for that. It wasn't certainly a promising performance projecting forward to the Kentucky Derby for Disarm, but he's got enough points to go, and I think they'll take the shot and go ahead and play in that race. I think his Louisiana Derby effort obviously was much better when he ran second in there. Speed compromise behind Kings Barnes. Today, I thought he would have had a little bit more punch in the stretch, but he did not. The winner, though, First Mission, very determined. You know, dangerous ride. Irada Ortiz dropping over an Arabian Lion coming down the stretch like that. Could have got nasty on the rail, but luckily First Mission was athletic enough to get through there. No harm, no foul, I guess is what they say, but it certainly was a risky proposition there around the 16th pole. But First Mission got through unscathed, went on to the winner's circle, and should be headed to Baltimore. Can't wait to see how we go this year in the Preakness with Bob Baffert not having horses in the Kentucky Derby. Who might he have and want to go to the Preakness with? Arabian Lion comes out of this race. Maybe they'll want to go to the Preakness with him. So I think today's race will certainly have an impact on this year's Triple Crown. That's the Lexington Stakes. The third stakes you saw in that recap from today was the Jenny Wiley, and what a just, beautiful performance by In Italian. She did exactly what she needed to do. There was a key scratch in the race where the stretch out sprinter came out of the race, and as soon as I saw that scratch at like 10:30 this morning, it was like I was singling In Italian anyway, but that just like kind of sealed the deal. If she's not going to get any pace pressure, Queen of Goddess had to do all of the dirty work. That's not a good recipe for that filly. Sets up, by the moonlight, closes to get second. Very obvious exacta. And In Italian, she starts off her campaign this year, 5 now? As good as ever. That was a really good performance. She's going to have a big year, and we'll see where she shows up next. Got to think she's headed to New York for her next start. So maybe we see her at Churchill on the one of the undercards on Friday or Saturday Derby week. But that's a pretty quick turnaround. I think we'll see her in New York, maybe Belmont Day. Just the game on Belmont's undercard. That seems like a perfect race for In Italian at that 1-turn mile in New York at Belmont Park. So we'll see where she ends up next. That's a wrap for what we know on the Saturday card. As we look ahead to Sunday, weather is a concern. There's overnight rain expected in Lexington through the morning. It's like a 40-50% chance of rain and scattered thunderstorms. It's warm now. It's going to get much colder tomorrow afternoon. In fact, the temperature is going to drop 15 to 20 degrees throughout the day. The winds are going to be strong. But the rain looks like right now, the latest weather.com forecast I looked at right before going live on this podcast tonight at 8:30, looks like it may clear up around post time. So around 1 o'clock, and then we'll be okay the rest of the day. So By the time scratches and changes are in, I think we'll have decisions on these turf races. We've got a turf race in race number 2. We got a turf race in the 4th and a turf race in race number 7. So we'll have to make an early decision because you got 2 races in the early pick 5 that are part of the or 2 races on the turf that are part of the early pick 5. So they'll want to make a decision quickly on that. So, get up in the morning, check out the scratches, changes, follow at Keeneland Racing on Twitter. And then 11:30, Scott and Gabby will have today at Keeneland to kind of give you the latest on the conditions and everything. So we're going to handicap tonight as if we're going to be on the turf. And when you see my big picture for today, as we bring that in for the first time, you're going to find out why. I'm optimistic that we're staying on the turf because if you see my 3 key plays at the bottom, races 2, 4, and 7, those are the 3 turf races of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. So races 2, 4, and 7. The horses I like best that could bring us a little bit of bingo and some cash tomorrow are the grass races. So I've got to have these races stay on the grass to have a big day tomorrow to have any chance of really digging into the card. If those races happen to come off the turf, this will be one of those days where I'm not getting as heavily invested as I would on a day where the horses are running over track conditions that they're familiar with and that I'm confident in what I'm doing with my handicapping. But the 9 race card on Sunday does line up this way. Pick 5 opens things traditionally in the first. The early pick 5 starts there. Race number 2 is going to start the early pick 4. It's also the kickoff leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 there, denoted in green. The pick 6 was hit today, as we told you, hit by many people paying $900. If you followed along last night, you probably cashed the ticket. We pretty much had the pick 6 set up for you last night, and things worked out. In the last race, we were hoping the 4 horse would hold on. She had to lead into the stretch and then got run down by the favorite Tarabi, who had a nice comeback race. That killed the price of the pick 6 and the pick 5, but we hit them, but not for much today. So hopefully a new pot starts anew in the pick 6 in race number 4 on Sunday. Race number 5 is pick 5 starting of the late pick 5, and it's a swing race. It's part of the early pick 5 and the late pick 5. It's also part of the early pick 4, races 2 through 5. So race number 5 is one of those, if you can hammer down and get a good opinion on, I can tell you right now, I don't have a strong opinion in that race. So that makes it tough for me to get too involved in the multi-race bets. If I can't narrow down that swing leg, I've got to narrow it down in some other places. We'll see if we can do that as we go race through the card. Race number 6 is going to start the late pick 4. Then we got double stakes action, the Palisades Turf Sprint in race number 7, final leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, and then the featured Beaumont Grade 2 company there, stakes action in the 8th. We've got key plays, as we told you, in races 2, 4, and 7. Let's get handicapping, everybody. It's a 9-race card that kicks off at 1 o'clock Eastern. I'm going Ricochet in the opener, as is my buddy Tom Leach in here, and Kim Nelson has Ricochet as well. A little love in here for American Pure and Picasso. So, if you look across the numbers, 1, 3, and 5 are pretty prominent in the top 2 spots for everybody. So you figured maybe this race, boils down to those runners. I'm taking Ricochet off the claim in here for John Ortiz, adds blinkers, has a good race over the track here at Keeneland. Second place finish on the main track at Keeneland, backaways in the past performances. Always like these horses that have a good run over the track at Keeneland. It's as good a horse for course place as you'll see. Turfway Park horses are having a really strong spring meet. I think they're on pace to win something along the lines of 27 races by the end of the meet. They won 16 last year during the spring meet. So the Turfway horses are off to a better than expected start. And again, the stronger part of the meet is going to be in our rearview mirror after this weekend. And that's when you expect the Turfway horses to kind of flex a little bit later in the meet. So Ricochet comes out of Turfway, as does Beaver Hatton here, a couple horses that you want to keep an eye on from the Turfway circuit. Picasso's one in here, the 5 that some of our other handicappers have. Class Dropper here by Tappan, a winner over the track, going a mile and 16th last year in the spring meet when trained by Mike Maker. Now Will Walden claimed out of that race and has won for Walden since then. The form wasn't very good in the last 2 at Turfway and Laurel, but a class drop out of the allowance ranks and a return to a surface they've won before over. That's been a good handicapping angle. So do not be surprised if Picasso wakes up with the return to Keeneland in race number 1. We move next to the second race on the card. And again, this is going to start at Keeneland Turf Pick 3, starting earlier than we're used to seeing. Those Keeneland Turf Pick 3s, the final 3 turf races on the card each day, typically are later in the day, like 5, 7, 9, that kind of deal like that. For the second race to be a Keeneland Turf Pick 3 race is unique. And also to have a 1.5 mile grass race this early in the card too. We're typically used to seeing these races push back towards the end of the card, feature type races on weekdays. But on this Sunday card in a field of 7, we've got a 1.5 mile grass allowance in race number 2. And we're going this long on the turf. I think this is where pedigree shines. You need a horse who can get the distance, and they're not going to get a ton of opportunities to run a mile and a half on the grass. If you look at the 7-horse field, the first 4, there's 1 start combined between them. The outside runners have 3 starts combined. So this entire field has 4 races lifetime at a mile and a half on the turf. You're not going to see long resumes of mile and a half grass races. There just aren't enough of those offered in today's racing game. So I think this is why you lean on pedigree. You want stamina, you want distance, and 2 horses in here just completely, to me, stand out on pedigree. It's not even close compared to the others. The 3, LS Forte by Flincher out of an Arch mare. That's endurance from Europe over endurance from the U.S. in the pedigree. The 3's got an excellent pedigree for the distance. And then the same thing with Kiss You Later, European distance extraordinaire pedigree with Galileo as the sire, and then Quiet American distance sire on the bottom side of the pedigree. So again, this is like Europe over American, distance over distance pedigrees. The 3 and the 5, LS Forte, the 5, Kiss You Later, and 2 trainers that you really have to respect. Christophe Clement, the trainer of the 5, Kiss You Later, and LS Forte's trainer, Ian Wilkes. Everything he sends out at the meet has been live and really running well. I think you want to keep following these Wilkes horses throughout the weekend, and that's why one of my first key plays of the day comes right here in race number 2. I like the pedigrees. I like the fact that we get Wilkes with one of those. It's the 3 and the 5 for me in here. I'm surprised. One of the stats I found in my blog that you can read at Keeneland.com, my stats and trends blog each day under the expert selections banner, Christophe Clement's only won 2 turf marathons here. You think of all the great turf horses he's had, the stamina, the distance, you would have thought he's won a lot more mile and a half grass races here at Keeneland than he has. But I take nothing away from the shot here for number 5, Kiss You Later. I think it's those 2, but my handicapping brethren say it's a little more wide open than that. They're being a little more ambitious with some of the pedigrees. Sinfiltre, the 7, is picked on top by Scott and Gabby, picked second by Kim. Tom's taking the 4, I'm So Sorry, in race number 2. I looked at Sinfiltre, and this is a horse I had kind of in my top 3 considerations, and I just ended up bumping back, by Uncle Mo, who's kind of a mile sire, and out of a forestry mare, which is totally miler. So I know they wanted a mile and 3/16 on the synthetic last time out at Gulfstream Park, but those synthetic races are kind of a different breed here. They're extremely slow pace that day, 49, 112, and 1. If there's any kind of pace at all, I wonder if Sinfiltre can actually get the distance. There's not a lot of early speed in this race, but I would expect I'm So Sorry to set the tempo. That's the one that Tom Leach is taking as an upset pick. This is another one, though, by Uncle Mo. There is stamina on the dam side of the pedigree, which I like to see out of Lemon Drop Kid, Belmont winner there. So maybe I'm So Sorry can get the distance. Certainly should get the lead in this race and a better post draw than last time out at Gulfstream. The 4 wouldn't be a surprise. If the 3 or 5 don't win this race, I think the most likely next winner would be the 4, taking them on the front end. I think Sinfiltre can run 3rd in this race, maybe 2nd, hold on for a piece, but I don't think the horse is going to live out the whole mile and a half. Let's go to the 3rd race on the program next up, and we'll just keep it right here on the selection box, because this is a race where Wesley Ward's got a first-time starter named Huey. He's the owner, he's the trainer, he's the breeder. We've talked about this with the 2-year-old races. Wesley Ward's 3 for 3 in the 2-year-old races so far this meet, as far as the 2-year-old maidens go. And they're all horses that he bred, owned, and trained. And in some cases, he owned the sire or raced the sire as well. So they're like Ward through and through. Maybe Huey kind of continues that trend of Ward's got all these horses where he's getting all the candy, as I said, and he has them all ready to go for Keeneland. Those others were 2-year-olds. This is a 3-year-old, or should say a 4-year-old by American Pharaoh. Hasn't made it the races until age 4 and shows up in a $20,000 maiden claimer. He goes to Sanchez as the jock. I mean, they've won 4 out of 10 teamed together, but it just doesn't feel right. I don't know. I originally defaulted to Huey because I didn't like anybody else in the race. And you'll see I still picked Huey 2nd in here because of this Ward factor. He, like I said, he's doing it all right with these horses that he owned, bred, and trained. But I don't know. I just, if I could find something I really liked in this race, I would even be more confident in trying to knock him out. But I don't have anybody I'm completely in love with. I kind of defaulted to the 5. Kid Rocks Kid. This is a 19-time maiden. Of course, I think we had a 16-time maiden today win a 1st or 2nd race on the card as the favorite. I'm hoping we get a little bit better price on Kid Rocks Kid. This is a horse who's got some speed. These races play profile, heavy to speed. Maiden claimers go in 6 furlongs. Donegal Danny, the horse for Brad Cox, and here who takes the big class drop, dropping out of a mile race. I don't know how much early speed that one may have. There's not much pace in here at all. Kid Rock's Kid is at least 6 furlong speed. I think the horse is going to go to the front. And we'll see if Adam Beskica can nurse this one home and finally break the maiden in the 20th career start. But if I'm picking an 0 for 19 horse, I better get a price. If I'm not getting 6-8 to 1 on Kid Rock's Kid, I'm not interested at all. This is a tough race. I think you want to spread. The 5's the top pick. Also consider the 7, the 6. I like the 8, Donegal Danny, that I think you have to throw in there. And then the 15, Bluegrass Loot. If that one gets in off the also eligible list, the 15 could be dangerous in here as well. So I think you want to go 4 or 5 deep here in race number 3. As we look across the handicapper selectors box, you've got another also eligible for Kim Nelson to consider, and they're in the 13. So a lot of 6, 7s. The 5, Kid Rock's Kid, I'm on the island with. No, Scott's got that one third. But only person with Kid Rock's Kid on top. It's just a speed play. The turfway angle, those horses are running well. But again, if you're 0 for 19, you had better get paid if you get that one home as the top selection. I would bet the horse at 6-8 to 1, but less than that, I'd have to, as Harvey Pack used to say, take the trip to El Paso. 4th race on the card. Next up is the pick 6 kickoff leg, and race number 4 also is the middle leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. It's also where I've got my second key play of the day. We're getting a nice price in the morning line on Lady Hideaway. Ian Wilkes and Irad Ortiz team up here. I don't think we're going to get the price. I think we're going to get this one bet down a little bit more. But I love horses coming off layoffs and turf miles here at Keeneland. This has been an angle the last 4 or 5 years. I've really had a lot of success following. Turf miles are races where the pace isn't brutal, and you just have to kick home. So it really sets up nice for a horse who's coming off the layoff. They just need to be sharp. They don't need to have a ton of stamina. They can just kind of, go along in 47 and change, that kind of deal for the first half mile, and then just kick at the end. So if a trainer can get a horse sharp off the works, then they can be very effective at these turf mile trips. And statistically, they've done exceptionally well. A lot of the horses in this race come off the layoff. So it doesn't, the only reason to play Lady Hideaway isn't because he's coming or she's coming off the layoff. Almost all of them in this race are. It's that Gam's Mission, the horse who's the 2 in here, is the only one who has run recently. I would not give any major edge to say, oh, well, Gam's Mission has run recently. That's an advantage. I don't think that's statistically true at all here when we look at these turf mile allowance races at Keeneland. So Lady Hideaway, I like the move to Irad Ortiz after the Bullet workout. Everything for Ian Wilkes is firing. I'm just, almost blind betting Ian Wilkes at this point right now, but this horse has a lot to like as well. So I like Lady Hideaway here. In race number 4 is my second key play on the card. And again, this race is going to kick off the pick 6, but it's going to be part of that early pick 4 and early pick 5. So I want to lean pretty heavily on the 1 Lady Hideaway in here. And dare I say, even though this is a race that's got other horses that are competitive in here, I kind of almost feel like it's a potential single. Bubble Rock is really good on the front end for Brad Cox, won the Mrs. Revere Stakes last year, comes off the bench and has run well here in the past. The Valley View set all the pace before finishing 4th. But I think the 3, the 5, and the 6, Breeze Rider, Bubble Rock, and Freedom Speaks are all horses who are going to show a lot of speed in here. I think that sets up nicely for the fact that the off the pace type here, Lady Hideaway under a patient ride coming up the inside for Irad Ortiz. I'm going to get gutsy here, and I'm going to single in race number 4 with the 1, no matter the price. And if the price is right, we'll certainly be getting involved for sure on the win end. Let's go to the 5th race on this Sunday card. You've got Remuda, the top choice for our first 2 handicappers on the board, Scott Hazelton and Tom Leach. But the rest of us are going different directions. Top of the charts, the top pick for Gabby and Kim. I'm going in here with Under Oath. Under Oath is a horse. It gets some underneath consideration from the others. Todd Pletcher trains this one. Flavian Pratt rides. A winner over the track going 6 furlongs during the April meet last year in the spring. Again, I like these horses for courses. You got Pletcher, really well bred for a sprinter. Spikestown up top, JoJo Warrior on the bottom. There's a lot of speed there, but this horse is pace versatile. Came from way off the pace when they won here last year. And then Under Oath also won wire to wire at Saratoga later in the summer. So has won from the clouds, has won on the lead, and that pace versatility I think is going to come in handy because I've got hot pace with a couple underlines written at the top of my past performances. I think the 1 Remuda is going to the front. I think the 2 wants to go to the front. The 4 Peaceful Waters I think can absolutely just blow this race up. Peaceful Waters is exceptionally fast. I don't trust her so much as we go the little extra distance to the 6.5 furlongs. If this race was 6 furlongs, I think Peaceful Waters might be able to handle that other speed and still kick on and win. But with other speed in the race, this very competitive up front, and the fact that it's 6.5, not 6, I think Peaceful Waters is going to back up, but I think she's going to knock out the other speed. That's why I'm going prices in here and from off the pace. The 8 Under Oath, the 10 Minnesota Ready, and then the 5 Embrace. I'm going with all closers in this race. And if you're playing multi-race wagers, that's what I would do. I would take the 3 best closers in this race and try to get through race number 5. And that makes you 3 deep in here, I think, with those 3. The 8, the 10, and the 5 for me in this, what is a swing race in the pick 5. We're singling the 4th. We're not getting too deep in some of the others. So, maybe we can get after a little bit in the early pick 5 on this program here. We've narrowed some of the other races down enough to do a little bit, because I think that second race on the first race on the card and the third race on the card, there's a little more spread feeling to those. The first and the third, not super confident in what we're sending out there in the first and the third. I think in the second, we can take those 2 horses on the grass that we like quite a bit with the route pedigrees, the 3 and the 5. And then again, we got the single in the 4th, and then we go 3 deep in the 5th. So not a bad ticket to put together there on the early pick 5. Won't get too expensive. We go to the 6th race on the card next, and this is a tough one because you're looking at a lot of first-time starters in here. And it's a profile that 6 furlong maiden specials for the 3-year-olds here in the spring at Keeneland skews pretty heavily towards horses who have experience. All the action in this race is going to be on the first-time starters. I think the 1 Malibu Springs off Bullet Workouts at Palm Beach Downs for Pletcher. This quality road colt is going to get bet. Magic Tap is absolutely going to get bet by Tap It out of American Story, who was a really good filly right off the blocks. American Story, I believe Simon Callahan, I think, had her at the beginning of her career, and she was really sharp. This is a horse who's working bullets at Fairgrounds in Churchill for a Steve Asmussen barn that rarely works them fast. So the first-time starters, the 1 and the 3, are absolutely going to get bet. Brad Cox has an always dreaming first-timer named Saudi Crown, the 8, who has a bullet workout at the Churchill Downs Training Center. There are 3 rookies that are going to get bet. The profile in race number 6 tells me, though, that you want horses with experience. So I'm just going to play the trends in here, not with a ton of confidence, but the 10 Brighter Days Ahead debuted by making the lead at Saratoga, ended up 5th that day behind Instant Coffee, Arthur's Ride, who was a nice winner at Gulfstream over the course of the winter. Croupie's a decent horse for Todd Pletcher. Brighter Days Ahead comes out of a really nice race at Saratoga. Off the layoff, Joe Sharp gets Tyler Gaffleone. Tyler back, Rosario back today after their road trip to Oaklawn. I mentioned earlier, they finished right on the wire ahead apart in the Apple Blossom Stakes. It was Rosario timing it on Clairiere, nailing Gaffleone and Secret Oath at the wire of the Apple Blossom. If you haven't seen that one, go back and check out the replays. The other horse in here who has some experience that I'm interested in is the 9 Wild Thinker. He ran against Squire Creek, who's already come back this meet to win very impressively in Allowance Company. Wild Thinker was 3rd beaten 7 that day down at Fairgrounds, but a fast time, 110 flat that day. Squire Creek, again, already has come back for Brad Cox and won at the meet impressively. So I'll take the 10 and the 9, and then that whole series of first-time starters, right? Magic Tap should have your interest. Malibu Springs, the 1. The 8 Saudi Crown. So if you start getting into the first-time starters, you're trying to separate between Pletcher, Asmussen, and Cox, all with horses with bullet workouts and nice pedigrees. I can't separate those. So what I'm going to have to do is just take the experienced horses and see how things turn out. I think this is a race that you would definitely want to spread in. Probably use all 3 first-time starters, the 2 horses with experience, and try to get through going 5 deep in race number 6. So that gets you started in race number 6 on the late pick 4. At a pretty high number now. Now, I think in the stakes races, we can narrow things down a little bit coming up. So hopefully that number for the late pick 4 and the late pick 5 won't get too high if you're looking to play those wagers. Coming up next is the Palisades Stakes. It's race number 7 on the card. It will be the final leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Palisades is for the 3-year-old boys, 5.5 on the main track. One of the most interesting 2-year-olds last year was Damon's Mound, a blowout winner in the career debut at Churchill in July. Came back and won the Saratoga Special with ease in the second career start, knocking off Gulfport, and then just kind of went off the rails after the Iroquois tried to go long in that race and make a Breeders' Cup horse out of him. It didn't work out. Now they're back to a sprint, but it's a turf sprint. What gives here? We're going to find out from trainer Michelle Lovell. She caught up earlier with Tom Leach earlier today, and here's the interview.
One of the exciting horses last year was Damon's Mound, so we'll see him first time in 2023 for Michelle Lovell in the Palisades on the turf. Why'd you pick that spot?
Well, the main reason was we weren't quite ready for the Lafayette, and I wouldn't have minded running him there, but I thought 7 furlongs was going to be a stretch for his first time back. It's really kind of a grueling race when you haven't run it before. So this was the only other race, and I think that we agreed, the owner, Mr. Love and his wife, agreed that it would be a good spot to try him on the turf. It'll be a nice get ready for your next race, and we hope he loves it. It's a shorter distance, but he's doing fabulous, so we'll see.
Anything about his makeup or pedigree that gives you confidence for the turf?
Well, the dam was long turf, and Gervin did run once, and he ran second on the turf, so there's nothing to say he's going to hate it, and I think he'll run on rocks.
What are you seeing in terms of how he's grown or improved from 2 to 3?
He was a very mature 2-year-old, and now he's a good looking. He's filled out even more. He's gotten a little bit bigger, filled out more, but he looks fantastic. Very nice horse.
If all goes well on the race Sunday in the Palisades, got a thought of where you'd like to go next?
Our initial thoughts were when we got him back into training, because he didn't go out with an injury. We just gave him some time to grow. And our plan was, which you always have to have a little wiggle room because they always find a way. And our plan was to run in the Lafayette and go to the Pat Day Mile if that worked out. So, we could still get to the Pat Day Mile if he runs a huge race. That's a thought. 2
turns in your thoughts for this year, or going to keep him around 1?
I think we're just going to let him tell us when we get there, a couple races under his belt. He may want to stretch out a little bit further anyway, so we'll see. I don't think that he's not a 2-turn horse. I just think that we just got to get there in his time.
So interesting interview there. Thanks to Tom Leach for that. Michelle Lovell, honest and forthcoming here. You try to read between the lines, right? This wasn't the initial thought for Damon's Mound for the return. They wanted to go in the Lafayette Stakes, but got a little behind, wasn't ready to go 7 furlongs, so they go 5.5. The intention is to get ready for the Pat Day Mile coming up back on the dirt at Churchill on Derby Day. So this looks like a spot with Damon's Mound from post 12 that's going to be difficult to win from out there, and I'm not so sure that he's knuckled down to do it. If he wins this race, it will be on sheer talent, I think, as he's looking ahead to another spot. This wasn't the first intention, but they need to get a race into it, and they need to get the campaign started. He's working well. He looks well. And again, there's no reason on pedigree that this horse out of the Stroll mare, San Antonio Stroll, there's no reason at all. The turf is going to be the problem here, but a tough post position and a tough field here. Let's take a look at the selections for our handicappers in the 7th race, the Palisades Stakes. Should we all just circle Wesley Ward and move on? We probably should. Yet nobody picked No Nay Hudson on top. We just talked about Wesley Ward winning all these turf sprint stakes races, 10 of the last 19, a couple already this meet. No Nay Hudson, I tried to beat him as well. Maybe we're just getting hit over the head with bricks here, but everybody's got a little respect for No Nay Hudson somewhere in the mix. I love these 3, 4, 5 posts. You know that they get a great trip from that hole typically if they get out at all. And number 4, Crispy Cat, I think gets a beautiful trip in this race. And that's why Crispy Cat is my race number 7, my key play number 3 on the card. I think the way this race sets up, the 1-2 of a kind is speed on the rail. Not a turf horse, but Brian Lynch's horses have good speed. They usually get out of the gate. And I think Julian Leparoux is going to have to hustle and chuck and dive coming out of there and get going with 2 of a kind from the rail. I think that horse goes to the lead, and Crispy Cat gets to just sit second. Paco Lopez, a very aggressive rider. He's going to get this horse out of the gate quickly. I think they can just kind of sit in the 2 path right off of 2 of a kind. And if 2 of a kind doesn't break, the 4 Crispy Cat just goes to the front. I think Crispy Cat's going to get a great trip. Probably the best bet on the card if you weren't going against Wesley Ward. But you just can't say my best bet of the day is beating Wesley Ward in one of these turf sprint races the way he's going right now. So No Nay Hudson absolutely has to be respected. He's run 5 races. He's never run a bad one. His 3 on the turf, he's yet to win, but he's usually right in the mix. He was 3rd in the Indian Summer as the favorite here over this course. So you know he's going to like the course. John Velasquez rides. No Nay Hudson would be no surprise whatsoever. I think you can kind of get away with just those 2. I know Private Creed's a horse in here who's got some credentials. Private Creed, a horse who rallied from off the pace in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint to run 3rd. He rallied from off the pace to win the Indian Summer Stakes. But the 1.125 last time, Steve Asmussen tried to run this horse in the Louisiana Derby, or I should say in the Risen Star, to see if he was a Kentucky Derby horse. I always say this, and it's true. You're only 3 once, right? I mean, there's only one Kentucky Derby. There's only one day in a horse's life when they can actually run the Kentucky Derby. It's the first Saturday in May of their 3-year-old year. So it's in everybody's crosshairs who's got a colt. But I don't know what they were doing with Private Creed coming back in the Risen Star Stakes. They took a shot. It worked out disastrously. Does that horse come back then off of that effort at 1.125 come back to a turf sprint and fire? Possibly so. Joel Rosario is the best closing jockey in the game today. We saw that again today with Clairiere down at Oaklawn. He's the best turf sprint rider statistically here at Keeneland. If anybody's going to get Private Creed to rally again and turn back in this trip, it's Joel Rosario. I have respect for him, but I'm going to try to beat him. I'm taking the 4 Crispy Cat, who I absolutely love. And if Wesley Ward wasn't so damn hot right now and winning all these turf sprint stakes races, I would make the 4 the best bet on the card. But no Nate Hudson, I think you have to use. So I think this is a 2-deep situation when you're looking at the late pick 4 and the late pick 5. If you want to go deeper than that, certainly there are good options in here, right? I mean, we're talking about a good one with the 6 Private Creed. That's Gabby's top pick. That's the top pick for Kim as well. And no disrespect to them whatsoever. I just think Crispy Cat's going to get the trip, and Scott Hazelton's in agreement. We both have Crispy Cat. Tom Leach going with a price from the 5-hole Gaslight Dancer. He's going to get a nice price on this one. And getting a long shot with Tyler Gaffleone and Mike Maker out of a Power Post 5. I couldn't argue with Tom Leach on that pick one bit. He's going for a price, and I think he will get it with Gaslight Dancer. If the horse is good enough, should get the good trip from that post position number 5. Let's go to race number 8. Next up on the card, it's the featured race on the program. It's the Grade 2 Beaumont Stakes at 7 furlongs and 184 feet. That's the Beaumont course, as they call it at Keeneland. So almost 7.25 furlongs here. This will stretch horses' stamina a little bit. Key of Life is the big horse to beat in here. And she's gone farther than she's ever gone before. She's never run past 6.5. She's just almost untouchable at 6 furlongs. At 7, you say, can they catch her? Now at 7 and another 184 feet. Will anybody be able to catch her? Not as she runs like she did last year here at Keeneland. She was absolutely devastating in Allowance Company and also in the Myrtlewood Stakes.
Key of Life leads it. Somebody's Problem a length away in second. Gap of 5 lengths back to Lady Radler in third. 2-minute drill is fourth. Baby Got Backspin fifth is 8 lengths off the lead. They turn for home. Somebody's Problem trying to come after Key of Life, who still has the lead though. And Key of Life leads it by 1.5 lengths. Now by 2, 2.5, 3 lengths good. At the 8th pole, Lady Radler down toward the inside, tries to move up and challenge for second. Baby Got Backspin, runs from the outside along with Satin Doll, but well behind Key of Life. And Key of Life has the Myrtlewood Stakes wrapped up for jockey Florent Giroux. Key of Life, impressive here this afternoon in victory. Lady Radler second, close for third. 1 minute, 11.09 seconds.
She's fast. She's in good form off a big win last time out in the Purple Martin, going wire to wire at Oaklawn. If you're going to beat Key of Life in here, it's going to take a lot of hard work on the front end to soften her up, similar to what we saw with the big favorite in Italian today on the grass course. Of course, this one on the main track, but somebody's going to have to go hard and go long after Key of Life. It could be Stonewall Star. I mean, I don't know if Stonewall Star is quite fast enough to run with Key of Life early, but certainly has that intent. An aggressive early jockey like Luis Saez. This horse has been on top in our last 4 starts. We've seen Flatter send out some really good stakes-winning sprinters here over 6, 7 furlongs. So there's a pedigree for Stonewall Star to like Keeneland in the first shot here. There's also pedigree to like Keeneland for the 4 Interpolate. That's Chad Brown. Of course, he won the 7 furlong stakes earlier in the meet with a great Goodnight Olive. This is the daughter of Goodnight Mischief. Interpolate by Into Mischief is the leading sire here at Keeneland on the dirt since we went back to the dirt surface. So a lot to like with those. Opus 42 is an interesting one. Arnaud Delacour sends this one out. Delacour had the smashing winner on Friday in the turf race. The Maker's Mark Mile, just fabulous performance on the front end for the Arnaud Delacour trainee in there. So his horses are running well. I just don't see a closer that I really like and trust in this spot. And I think if you're going to beat a horse like Key of Life, the same way with in Italian, is you're not going to do it with a similar running style. You're not going to go to the front and beat this horse because they're better than everybody else when it comes to doing what they do, which is going to the front. And if you go to the front, you're going to pay the price for it, and it's going to set up for somebody else off the pace. So if you had a good closer you like in this race, maybe you say there's a chance of upsetting a Key of Life as she goes the 7 furlongs plus here in the Beaumont. But I don't have a closer in here I like. I do think the 6 Opus 42 cutting back from the route to the sprint may just kind of default into being a little bit more of a closer, but the blinkers on could work against that too. So we shall see. I mean, it was a tremendous performance by Delacour on Friday. We'll see if he gets Opus 42 ready to run like that one. But I don't think they're touching the winner in here, Key of Life. I don't think there's a great play intra-race. I think you just want to get through Key of Life in the multi-race bets, whether you're taking a daily double from race 7 to 8 or from 8 to 9. You might look at something like that. Certainly a single for me in the multi-race wagers, the pick 4 and the pick 5. Key of Life picked on top by our first 3 handicappers on the board, but Gabby's going against Key of Life, going with Stonewall Star, the other speed horse. Very interesting here that she's taken the other speed head-to-head. We'll see if she's right. She's had a very good handicapping meet, and she's been on point. Certainly no disrespect there. Stonewall Star and Key of Life with a similar style. Boy, if you beat Key of Life on the front end, I think you will really have earned it. Interpolate the top pick in here for Kim Nelson. That one for Chad Brown may sit a little bit off the pace, but doesn't want to come from too far off of it. Irad Ortiz will probably have that one into the race as well. So I think Key of Life is an absolute standout here, but the distance does kind of bring the field into play a little more. Just wish there was a closer I liked. If you could get a good price on the 7-6 exacta, I wouldn't sneeze at that as we look at the featured 8th race. 9th and final on the card then. We'll just go right into that. Solid Tune, the top pick for a couple handicappers in here. This is a race I didn't have a real strong feel for. Solid Tune's a horse for Whit Beckman getting blinkers, taking a big class drop. A lot of these horses are kind of trying to find where they belong. There's non-winners of 3 lifetime ranks. I took the 2 Fabricate, Megan Favlovich, who only has a couple starters this year, 19 of them, but has picked up 5 victories out of the Mahoning Valley base in Ohio. Claimed this horse at Churchill last September, has been sitting on her all winter, shows up and gets Irad Ortiz on a Mahoning Valley horse. I think it's very interesting. That's why I ended up leaning to the 2 Fabricate. Also, I like the fact that Fabricate's run 2 races here at Keeneland and has run well in both. The 2nd and a 3rd place finish. One of the 3rd place finishes in a Lowndes Company behind Center Isle. Has taken on better competition in the past. This just looks interesting. Owner-trainer Megan Fadlovich, again, claimed this horse for 30 during the September meet at Churchill. Maybe they were looking for Keeneland last fall and things didn't work out after the claim. They're back at Keeneland, though, in the spring, though, and they get Irad Ortiz riding for a trainer that's 5 for 19 on the year. I found that very interesting. The 6 Bell Aria is one who's probably going to come from a little bit off the pace. That Turfway cut back angle, not a bad thing. Horses cutting back and trip do pretty well here at the 6.5 furlong distance. Bell Aria from Turfway, I think, can kind of make a little hay late in the go. Knowing Glance is another late runner who's got some good form. But the races at Keeneland were hot and cold. 1 win and then just a bad effort last year. But then went to the sidelines after that for a little bit. And, maybe something was askew that day. Knowing Glance back here at Keeneland should probably handle the track. I thought 2, 6, 1, and 3 were all logical players in the last. And I didn't use Solid Tune, who the other guys have on top. So even if you wanted to go 5 deep in here, 2, 6, 1, 3, 4, this would be a race where I'd try to spread a little bit. I don't think you have to spread with Key of Life. I think Crispy Cat and Noni Hudson, you do want to spread in the 6th, I believe, and the 5th is a tough one. So you've got 3 spread races from races 5 to 9. This late pick 5 is going to be difficult to bet. I think I think the most singled horse in the late pick 5, which begins there in race number 6, will probably be Key of Life. And so if you're singling the same one everybody else is, and then you've got to spread deep in the other races, you're really hoping for some bingo, and the price of your ticket's going to jump up there. So it could be an expensive play if you get involved in a late pick 5 tomorrow. I think the early races on the card are a little more focused. They've kind of fit my opinions a little bit better. And that Keeneland Turf pick 3, I'm absolutely salivating for. If we can get into the Keeneland Turf pick 3, I think we can do some serious damage tomorrow. So let's tell Mother Nature to stay away with the rain. If they're going to rain overnight and into the morning and get out of here. The turf course has been very fast the past couple of days. You heard on those race replays, a couple stakes records set. We had a stakes record in the Maker's Mark Mile as well. Turf course is fast, so a little bit of rain probably wouldn't hurt anything at this point to kind of, soften it up a little bit and cushion it a bit more. It might slow it down a bit, but I think if we can get these races on the turf tomorrow, the Keeneland Turf pick 3 is really probably the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 of the meet that I'm most interested in so far here as we hit the, 7th day of the meet coming up tomorrow. This is the one that I like the best. We'll be halfway home in the 15-day meet 2 weeks in after Sunday's program. That's going to wrap up the Keeneland preview and the Keeneland look ahead for this Sunday coming up on April 16th. Want to wish you good luck on the card tomorrow. Be sure to check out Scott and Gabby, 11:30 a.m. Eastern each day for Today at Keeneland. They'll give you the Clocker Report, Tom Leach's long shots, their look at their key plays of the day, interviews, and a whole lot more. So be sure to check that out before the races. If you don't watch these live at 8:30 each night, you can catch them on demand anytime on Twitter, YouTube, any of the social media channels. You can follow and pick up the replays of these shows throughout the course of the day tomorrow. A lot of people do that and get set for the card on race day. But we'll look ahead next on Tuesday this coming week after a couple of days off, as Tuesday's preview will be for the Wednesday card as we get into week number 3. On behalf of everybody at Keeneland, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great night, everybody. Good luck at Keeneland tomorrow.